Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Avatar weekly discussion topic video. Today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Korra comics and basically my predictions about what I really expect at SDCC, San Diego Comic-Con now. So the main reason I'm doing this topic is because realistically we are probably going to get the full schedule for San Diego Comic-Con towards the end of this week, start of next week, because the convention is obviously like approaching less than 2 weeks away, and the Comic-Con website mentions that their schedule will go up about 2 weeks before the convention begins. The convention is running from basically I think the 20th to the 24th, though the 21st is like the first official day of the convention, so that'll be the first day any news actually like starts to really come out. So obviously, you know, we're not too far away from that now. So here's the thing with this. The one thing that makes us really, believe that there'll be San Diego Comic-Con, Korra comic news is that they basically said on Twitter, Dark Horse on Twitter replied to someone and said, "We are saving our announcements about this for San Diego Comic-Con." You can see that tweet here. So yeah, they've said this. They've come out and specifically said this. Admittedly, it was a while ago when they did say this, so things may have changed since then. But the fact is that at some point, not too long ago, still, like 6-7 months after the announcement of like Brittany Williams as the artist and all this other stuff, they said there'll be more news at San Diego Comic Con this year. And so it's important, I think, to go back and actually look at what we know about the Korra comics. What is the history of them? When were they announced? What are the details that we know already? So the Korra comics were first announced at San Diego Comic Con last year. So we are very quickly approaching a year since the initial announcement. Now the way they did this was that there was an Avatar and Korra panel last year. It was primarily Dark Horse one. They had books and stuff like that. Mike and Brian were there. And at the very end, they basically had this GIF come up on screen. It just looked like the spirit portal, said the Legend of Korra, and then as the GIF kind of rolled on, Korra and Asami walk out, kind of arm in arm, out of the spirit portal. Dark Horse logo comes up, written by Mike DiMartino. That's our confirmation. So here's the, I suppose, final part of that GIF, kind of screenshotted as an image. So you can see that that's how they announced them. Now, obviously, that was I think a Mike DiMartino piece of art. Brian Konietzko piece of art, and it wasn't really in any way meant to imply that he was doing the art for the comics, because they basically said in the panel, in the little bit of information we got at the panel about it, that they did talk a little bit about it afterwards, that Mike is writing artists they're looking for. So they were looking for an initial artist when they made this announcement a year ago. And I'll go on about like what happened after that. But they do mention that the plan for these comics is to be the same format as the current Avatar comics, of each series being 3 books, part 1, part 2, part 3, each being 72 pages or in or around, same format, just a new creative team and obviously focused on Korra. And then what they mentioned about the story is that it will somewhat focus on Korra and Asami's relationship and the rebuilding of Republic City. That's everything we kind of know right now about the story of this. So, cut forward to October 2015, New York Comic Con is happening. And we went in knowing that we'd get some sort of announcement, I think. I think it might have been Twitter again from Dark Horse. And what happened there was, really they didn't cover all that much, but what they did do is they announced who the artist for the Korra comics was. And that was Brittany Williams. And they announced it, they told us who was the artist, and there was a kind of print sort of thing, poster type thing that was selling, that was basically concept art that Brittany Williams did for her design of Korra. You can see the images from that here. So, as you can see, we have some art, and everyone, I think most people in general really liked the art, and were really excited that we had a good artist on board, because any artist on the Korra comics has a lot to live up to after Guriahuru doing such a great job with the Avatar comics and continuing to do so. So having a good artist was a big thing. And everyone was excited, and it was great. And on the little poster thing, it said fall 2016. So it was like great, like in about a year we'll have the core comics and it'll be great. And basically, since then we got nothing. We've asked questions consistently since then, and basically got very little reply from Dark Horse. No real news, basically, and just continuously being left in the dark, with the only real talk about the core comics being rumors, basically, and people meeting Brittany Williams at conventions and stuff like that. And the rumor that's right now that is basically all but confirmed is that Brittany Williams is no longer the artist on these core comics. She seems to have said that to a bunch of people at conventions, and given that her Twitter makes no mention whatsoever that she's working on them, you would think if she was, she'd interact at least a little bit with the Avatar fandom and like do that, but I really do think that she's no longer on board. That combined with the more recent confirmation in the first episode of the Nickelodeon animation podcast with Mike and Brian towards the end, announcing, but like basically saying very casually just that they are delayed. There's been some problems. It's not what it's the schedule has kind of gone off a little bit, but no details really given. They don't explain that they're looking for a new artist or anything like that. And after I suppose going back to that initial kind of rumors, the only thing we really got was basically someone asked them at one point on Twitter, like, when are we getting more Korra comic news? And they just said, we're saving our announcements for San Diego Comic Con. You can see that tweet here once again. They did actually say this. That's why everyone is now putting all their hopes onto Comic Con, because Dark Horse said this is where the news was coming from. The next thing that we get is basically people continuing to ask, like, it's been almost a year. Why aren't we getting any more news about this? Why aren't you telling us what to expect at San Diego Comic Con or anything like that? And they basically reply with this tweet, you can see it here, which obviously says, because of licensing stuff, they can't say much about it while it's still in production, which is weird because, like, I suppose it's the level of how much they can actually say versus how much they can't say. Like, I suppose what they're not allowed to do for some reason is basically tell us about whatever art production problems that they were having, which obviously seems to be a thing that, like, just in general places like this don't like to do. They don't like to explain to you details of production problems, in that when we eventually do get more comic news and we get announced that there is a new artist, I don't think they will go into any depth in terms of trying to explain what the delay was because of. I think they will just basically announce, like, okay, Brittany Williams, we initially announced her as the artist, she could no longer do it, no explanation for why that is, and just say, here's our new artist, we actually have a date, here is more confirmation confirming that this new artist has been working on that book longer than Brittany was, and because of that, we can set in stone a release schedule or something like that. I really don't think once we get news they'll in any way keep us informed as to what actually was the problem. So definitely not a great idea to keep obviously the fandom in the dark. It's very quickly turning into a situation that we obviously had with The Legend of Korra, the show itself, and that most people who've been in the fandom for a long time will of course remember the wait between book 1 and 2 of Korra. 15 months between the end of book 1 and the start of book 2, and we basically got no news in the middle, with no communication from Nickelodeon as to why that was. Later on we found out ourselves, basically through interviews and other stuff like that it was production problems. But the lack of communication with fans really kind of took the wings out of the series pretty much. It really dropped a lot of attention. And the longer we wait with these core comics, the larger the chance is that more people just begin to not care, because it's such a long wait between announcement and final like realization of the comics. Obviously you'll have a core fan base that will always be like, oh, more core content, of course, but a lot of the people are just like, call me when it's actually out, call me when there's concrete information, not just rumors and stuff like that. So it's definitely quickly becoming a problem. And the most recent thing here, the reason I'm talking about this, is because recent rumors seem to suggest that they may actually be delaying the announcement to New York Comic Con. which isn't obviously going to help anyone. It's just going to make the fandom more and more annoyed. It's going to be Dark Horse basically having to admit they backtracked on what they said. Now, obviously, I assume it's not their fault. At the time, they thought they could announce it at SDCC, but maybe finding a new artist or whatever other problems they've been having has caused further delays. But, if you say that there'll be news at San Diego Comic-Con and you don't give us news at San Diego Comic-Con, of course people are going to be annoyed. Really annoyed. And if you honestly can't say why that is, then that's just this weird problem that you've created for yourself, and you've just made a fandom pretty angry. And I think Dark Horse know to treat the Avatar fandom a little bit differently than the other ones that they have, in that more so than almost anything, you have these people who, for the most part, I think in general with the Avatar fandom, they only care about Avatar comics. They're probably the only comics that most Avatar fans read. I read other ones, and obviously other people do as well, but most, I think, Avatar fans who like Avatar comics just read them, and so only care about the Avatar stuff, and are just kind of like, why won't you just keep us up to date with them? And I think they've made efforts to try and, treat the Avatar fandom a little bit differently in regards to actually responding a little bit more to Avatar fans, and just making it clear, like, this is roughly the situation as far as we can say. And then other stuff like Smoke and Shadow Part 3, they gave the preview pages directly to me for the website, AvatarTheLastAirbender.online.com, as an exclusive. I get review copies from them. They're making an effort to give the news, the content directly to the fans, and, really hype it up within the fandom, and not just be like, okay, we'll give all the news to comic sites who maybe don't consider Avatar the most important comics, whereas the Avatar fandom, of course, this is the fandom. It's based around the comics currently with no new show. So they've made an effort, but it seems like they're just so restricted with regards to Nickelodeon Viacom licensing that they can't say as much as they perhaps want to. In that, if the license wasn't as strict, I think we'd probably know that there was a new artist already. I think we'd probably have that confirmed. We'd probably have information already. And they probably would still be saving up for some sort of a bigger announcement at San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con. Now, as for what I actually think will happen at San Diego Comic-Con, what will be the announcement? I don't know. It's one of those things, like, because the most recent news is rumored, like, it more than likely is probably going to be somewhat true, in that if we do get anything at San Diego Comic-Con, it won't be as big as we perhaps expect. And New York Comic Con will probably be the full blowout of information on the Korra comics. But I just don't really know how to feel about that, because, like, as far as official news goes, we're still expecting news at SDCC. The only thing that really leads us to believe that there's going to be nothing is the fact that they haven't said anything since, like, April, and with regards to about SDCC. So I think they will, and what will happen is that there won't be an Avatar panel this year. I think Avatar will get a short but solid place within the overall Dark Horse panel. They will mention something about North and South coming out. They'll mention stuff about the colouring book. Quickly go through the product lineup. The Korra poster collection, the colouring book, and the Smoke and Shadow hardcover, North and South, of course. And then we'll maybe just mention we are doing Korra comics, and we'll have more announcements at New York Comic Con, and they might have just an image to go along with that slide. I don't expect it to be the cover. I expect maybe an image of Korra coloured in or something like that, just to make it clear, okay, look, we have some content to show you. We are not yet ready to reveal who this artist is, but here's a look at their work, or something like that. Just a really quick tease without going full reveal, and then at New York Comic Con we might get the full blowout of just, here's the cover, here's what the story is actually going to be about, and here's when to expect it. That's my kind of more, I suppose, negative approach, in that they will mention Korra comics, but only in the most minor of fashions. And I think they're at the stage now where anything they say about it, I think we have to get some sort of a visual from this comic to confirm to us 100% that it exists, and it is being worked on, and work is done, and it is somewhat approaching release. Like, for me, they can't just say, news at at New York Comic Con and just don't mention anything else beyond that. I think that would just completely annoy people and just really highlight some communication problems. So that's kind of the way I'm feeling on it right now. If I was more positive about it, I would say that, oh no, wait, there's enough content coming out from Dark Horse with Avatar and then Korra included that they will do an Avatar and Korra panel, and they'll talk about all the stuff I mentioned before in more depth, plus a decently sized reveal of information about the Korra comics. Who the new artist is, kind of the most basic of basic explanations about what the delay was caused by, what the story is going to be about, covers, concept art, images, and stuff like that. That's what I hope, but I don't think we should be expecting as much. So the main, I suppose, thing with this video is just going into SDCC with the reveal of what's going to be happening potentially later this week, and potentially that schedule mentioning nothing about Korra comics. Don't be super upset if we don't see any news about it. That's all I really want to say in this video. Just that we're as far as we're aware, we're expecting news at SDCC, but if they go back on that, you know, we've heard rumors about that. It's maybe not going to be that way. So it sounds bad. It is bad. I don't really like it, but it's what's going to happen. And you know, I will be covering the SDCC schedule reveal later this week, and I'll do a video on it regardless of if we have news about Avatar or Korra or not, to give my reactions to, like, okay, here's my thoughts on what's going to happen based on what the description says, and then what that means if they don't say anything as well. So keep your eyes locked on my channel for that, and yeah, I'm just going to end the video there and basically just say that with future Avatar discussion videos, I'm obviously changing things up a little bit. You guys have probably seen one of my more recent videos announcing my channel's Patreon campaign, and as part of the rewards for you guys helping to support my channel, if you do that on Patreon, you can actually choose the topics for me to discuss in these Avatar weekly discussion topic videos. Like, you know, what you choose is the topic I will discuss, like 100% confirmed. And then on the other thing, there is another reward tier where you can choose the topic and actually be on the discussion with me. We'll do it over Skype. It'll be a kind of discussion between us about the topic you have chosen, and that will be the video for that week. You choose the topic, you discuss it with me. So if you support my channel on Patreon, you can get that reward and stuff like that. So just wanted to make that clear to you guys that if you want to interact more through these Avatar weekly discussion topic videos, there is a way, and that is by supporting my channel on Patreon. The Patreon page is linked in the description below. But other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.